Hey, what's up? Wes here. Thanks for tuning in. So, I was working my ass off on 2 videos trying to get them ready to release here shortly when MichaelBtheGameGenie drops by with another Top 3 Tuesday. This time, Top 3 Shmups. Or shooters is what I call them. Shmup is like a dirty word to me. Whatever. Anyway, shooters. Top 3 shooters. And I couldn't resist. I could not resist this topic. So, let's do it. So, I am a big fan of the Thunder Force series. If you've watched my videos before, then that's no surprise there. So, you probably already know what game is coming up. Well, you're wrong. It's Thunder Force 5. I'm a big fan of the Thunder Force series, and while I absolutely drool over parts 3 and 4, Thunder Force 5 is probably my favorite. Released for the Sega Saturn and then the PlayStation, which is the version that I own, this chapter in Technosoft's illustrious franchise takes its first foray into the 2.5D realm, combining the side-scrolling levels that we've come to love with polygons. But what makes Thunder Force 5 stand out above the rest is the free-range weapon, arguably the coolest weapon in a shooter. When you master this laser of mass destruction, you can cut through enemies like piss through snow. Obviously, my lousy ass is rusty, and I don't have the best footage to showcase this impressive piece of hardware, but I assure you that once you have it down, ripping enemies to shreds will be as addictive as any intravenous drug currently out on the street. And of course, Thunder Force 5 has a spectacular soundtrack, keeping that tradition alive with some rockin' tunes, and is an extremely challenging game that will test any seasoned shooter fan. And there's even some heavy metal nods in the game, with bosses named Deep Purple and Iron Maiden.
Dude, that is tense!
What's keeping you from playing this one? Oh. Ouch. So yeah, this game is pretty tough. It takes a lot of practice, and I hadn't played it in a long time, so I was doing really bad when I was getting the footage for this game. So it's one of those games where I'm gonna have to revisit and practice like every day for like a month, so I can give it a good review, do the justice that it deserves. But Thunder Force 5 is a spectacular game. I highly recommend it. If you're a Thunder Force fan and you haven't played this one yet, what the hell's wrong with you? So this next game I've been playing for 25 years. It used to be my all-time favorite shooter, but it has been dethroned. We'll get to that in a minute. But that game is going to be M.U.S.H.A. M.U.S.H.A. is probably best known now for how expensive the game goes for these days, which is kind of funny, seeing as the reason I was even introduced to this exceptional shooter was because it was the cheapest Genesis game in the bargain bin at Electronics Boutique, going for a whopping $12. At 13 years old during the genesis of the console wars, no pun intended, how could I resist? I had no idea what I was in store for, but I can assure you that I was blown away. Developed by Shooter Guru's Compile, M.U.S.H.A. has you flying around in a mech through 7 vertical scrolling stages filled with non-stop action. The soundtrack is one of the best for a video game, period, with a thrash metal infused soundtrack that only gets you pumped up for annihilation. The stages are epic and memorable, littered with baddies, weapons, and power-ups. Half of the game is just explosions and shit blowing up. You take out giant carrier ships, Japanese castles on treads, and even a ship that has the face of a geisha. With a myriad of evil bosses and mid-bosses to dispose of, unique environments which complements the nefarious enemy's relentless onslaught, and a soundtrack that'll no doubt give you a stiffy for carnage, M.U.S.H.A. is an absolute blast, and is hands down one of my all-time favorite shooters. So the price that M.U.S.H.A commands these days is pretty outrageous, and I just can't recommend someone paying that much money to buy M.U.S.H.A, or spending that much money on any video game for that matter. That's stupid. But there are reproduction carts out there, so there are some alternatives, not to mention the Wii had it on the Virtual Console for $8, and unless they delisted it, it's still there, and it's a perfect port of the M.U.S.H.A, the original M.U.S.H.A game, as opposed to the ROM that's used on the Retron 5, where the music is all messed up, and the music is one of the best parts of the game. So, the people at Hyperkin, fix that, please. Alright, so what's my top favorite shooter of all time? I mentioned before that it used to be M.U.S.H.A, and it was for years, but then this bad boy came along.
Gradius 5 is the shit! The fifth entry into the franchise, Gradius 5 was developed by Treasure. Nuff said. The classic Gradius tropes return to the PS2, such as the power-up bar and red orbs, along with the typical arsenal we've grown accustomed to with this challenging series. You can choose your weapon array at the beginning of the game, but why anyone would select anything other than the array with the direction options is beyond me. This allows you to manipulate your options to fire in any direction. This has to be one of the most attractive weapon mechanics in a shooter, period. But probably the juiciest part of the game is the fact that you can choose an option to respawn immediately after death, instead of restarting from a checkpoint. Why anyone would not choose this option would be a greater mystery than why Seattle didn't run the ball from the 1 in Super Bowl 49. As probably most of you know, once you die in a Gradius game, the party's pretty much over. Respawning right after death, with the ability to recollect your options, makes an otherwise damn near impossible and frustrating experience into a shooter fan's wet dream come true. And Gradius 5 is epic, man. Remember how I mentioned the long stages in M.U.S.H.A? Well, M.U.S.H.A ain't got shit on Gradius 5, as each stage can take anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes to complete. The entire game takes over an hour to finish, and I love it. Combine this with a fantastic soundtrack, excellent graphics, and classic Gradius gameplay, and you not only have easily the best game in the franchise, but one of the best games in the genre.
Gradius 5 is a fantastic game, and if you like shooters, you have to play this game. Now, I think it's expensive now, but luckily you can download it on the PlayStation 3 through the store for $10, and it's upscaled, and it's probably the way to go. So, I would recommend going that route. But do whatever you need to do to play this game, because if you haven't played Gradius 5, you are missing out on a lot. You have no idea. So thank you, Michael B, for interrupting my hard work on the videos that I was currently working on to drop everything to make this top 3 shooters video. But in all seriousness, I had a ton of fun making it. I love shooters, so I just couldn't resist. And I'm really digging the top 3 Tuesdays. Keep that stuff up, man. And whenever I can participate, you can count on me to throw up a video for you. So it's a ton of fun. And I encourage other people to make your top 3 response videos as well. It's a lot of fun. And it's a lot of fun watching everyone's videos. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, if you want to watch more shooter stuff, I actually have a series that I started called Let There Be Shooters. Unfortunately, there's only 2 episodes, but I cover 3 shooters in each episode. So I'll put some annotations, end cards, links in the description to those videos. I also did a comparison video of Thunder Force 3 versus Thunder Spirits. If you're interested in that, I'll also leave the link in the description below. So check that video out as well. But thanks again for Michael B for encouraging me to make this video.
And thanks everyone who watched them. It would be really cool if some of you guys would make your response videos for your top 3 shooters. But at the very least, you can leave your top 3 favorite shooters in the comments below. That'll be a lot of fun to read. So I am eagerly waiting to read your responses. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. I will catch all of you later.